Aloha and welcome to the Surfing for Truth report with Andy and Lynn. We're here to, kind of elaborate on what we've been doing on social media and give you a little bit more information on, current topics, global, local, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we're calling this the Surfing for Truth report. Like Andy mentioned, there's just been so much going on. If you've been following us for a while, our usual format is, we do cover longer videos when we're filming at events and things like that. But typically on our social media, especially Instagram, you'll see reels, short videos, memes, and things like that. But we were hoping and felt that if we could, spend a little bit more time discussing, sharing our ideas, our research, and that could be really effective. We're going to try to do this like once a week or so. And hopefully keep it to, 45 minutes to an hour is kind of our goal, right?
Yeah, sounds good. So, with this inaugural episode here, we're going to start off, and kind of keep this format rolling through the different episodes as well. But starting off with local stories and, obviously what's more current right now locally than the 2022 election. So we wanted to kind of touch on BJ Penn, Duke Iona, the whole Josh Green thing and all of that. And we wanted to kind of get into how BJ Penn was really the populist movement here in Hawaii. And I want you to, kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you followed us for a while, you know that we were very strong supporters of BJ Penn and his campaign and his team and the whole movement behind that. As Andy mentioned, we view that as the populist movement that we had here in Hawaii. I don't know if we want to go ahead and
we'll bring up a definition of that here.
We've been using this term a lot, and not explaining necessarily. Do you want to?
Yeah, so basically, populist is defined as relating to or characteristic of a political approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel that their concerns are disregarded by established elite groups. So, that pretty much just kind of puts it into a nutshell there. And, that's the term that we use to describe Trump.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And that's what we feel that BJ Penn was bringing to Hawaii as well. He had his own voice, speaking directly to the people with his social media accounts. He didn't need the mainstream media to reach the people.
Yeah.
The mainstream media was actually, begging him to get coverage on their shows because he was bringing that attention, bringing that, those eyeballs and kind of that.
He had that charisma, that personality.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
He's already a well-known figure in Hawaii, well-loved, trusted by the people. You see this here, established elite groups, right? BJ Penn is the exact opposite. People could relate to him. And I think we actually have, we were going to show that other, our meme actually that we put together.
Yeah, let's bring that up too, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, the red wave essentially, and we'll talk more about the red wave later on, but was fueled by these populist movements across the nation, but also across the globe. We can talk about Bolsonaro and all that kind of stuff as well. But this is kind of what shows us here a little bit, some of those points that you covered. I don't know if you want to go into more detail there, but
yeah,
pro-Trump,
and
America first, yep.
Exactly, fixing our rigged elections, a big one is anti-fake news.
Yeah.
That's super big. And like we were talking about, BJ Penn, they were begging him to go on their shows as opposed to Duke Iona that was begging to get coverage, from the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And then Josh Green, he was denying, any debates and that kind of thing because he wanted to basically put a lid on it and make sure he didn't, screw up anything, any worse than he already had.
Right.
So, obviously, the next couple of bullet points here, we got, obviously the First and Second Amendment, anti-woke, securing our border. That's a big one that goes into so many different topics. And of course, pro-life as well.
Right. And we're not saying like all of this, but this is just basically a general framing of the type of movements and the type of candidates who have been succeeding and who have been, breaking through, bringing truth to the people. And Andy and I like to share this, that, we've been doing this kind of stuff. We've been covering political news. We've been kind of active since the beginning of the early Trump years. And our, I guess, outlook was always that, we got to fight because Hawaii's our home and we want to stay here and we want to save this place. But at the same time, we didn't really have much hope that, in this larger fight as we see it, that we could, Hawaii as a state could really stand alone or be like, a leader in any of this stuff,
Right.
We always assume that stuff will happen on the federal level, and we can kind of be a part of that, but that's what's going to trickle down to us. Something like, for example, voter ID,
right? We've got a lot more momentum, in the States than we've been seeing here. It has been happening here little bits at a time too, and that is encouraging. But seeing things really happen on the national level and being able to take advantage of that is a huge thing as well.
So basically, when BJ Penn came along, we were like, wow, we have a chance now, in Hawaii at home, to get a populist movement. So this whole thing with Duke Iona happened. I don't know if you want to,
Yeah, let's bring up another article here and, just kind of go over this. So, coming back to the fake news, they're kind of right in a way, but then they also put their spin on it too, So, this article was one of those kinds of things where they're kind of right in a way, but then they also put their spin on it. So they say Hawaii's Republicans are just not crazy enough to win.
And important note, this article came out after the general election.
That's right, after the general election. And it doesn't even mention BJ Penn, so that's another interesting point here. But, they're calling, the MAGA movement and what we've been seeing on the mainland and all that. They're calling it crazy. That's their spin. But then also in the same article, they say, even if they were crazy enough, we're too Democrat and it wouldn't work anyway. So, they kind of get you on both sides, and they just try and, stamp you down, and discourage you no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess, and I'm kind of laughing right now about all how we're going about this. If anybody here is not familiar with exactly what we're talking about, BJ Penn was running for governor in the primary race here in Hawaii. There were 10 other candidates. Duke Iona threw his hat in at the very last minute.
The very last day.
The very last day. He was previously the lieutenant governor of Hawaii. He was a judge. And, to us, it's like the very first line in the definition, we don't have to go back to it now, but it's like the whole anti-establishment. And here, so for us, Duke was like the anti-populist, right? Like, I mean.
Yeah. And that's what we've been seeing even on the mainland as well. And here's another article that we wanted to bring up, which was an article from Brian Cates, who has been doing some great analysis on various different topics, the election especially. But, the fight for getting the right candidate in happens in the primary. That's when that happens. And I think that there's a lot of, hype and a lot of hustle and bustle about the general election, as there should be. But people, kind of think of the primary election as sort of like not that important, but that's really when the candidates get chosen. And it's super important, because if you don't get the right candidates in and the establishment gets their, rhino ringer candidates in, then essentially they don't really even have to do much in the general, because they've already got their people in that they want in, they're two sides of the same coin kind of thing in the primary. So, this article goes into great depth from Brian Cates about how Carrie Lake, wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to be the candidate,
primary election,
for Arizona in the for the GOP in the primary election, but they were holding camp outs at the drop boxes and barbecues and all that kind of thing. They were going full on to make sure that they weren't able to get their rhino candidate in. So that's really the kind of effort that it takes with these mail-in voting systems to stop what they're doing.
Well, the whole cheating system, and that's what we're actually working on another graphic for that, but I digress. That basically talks about all the different aspects. So essentially for us, the primary election was over in August, right? When supposedly Duke Iona won. And I mean, I say supposedly, we've never said BJ Penn would have been a guaranteed shoo-in and he definitely would have won, right?
Right.
But you have two options, like the Civil Beat article kind of covers. You can either go with the same old kind of moderate, talk about the same problems. I mean, let's show
the Duke Iona approach.
These problems for years. Like, I'm going to fix them now. Like, everybody's heard that like 100 times already. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're on the left or on the right. Everybody's already heard those empty promises before. So the other approach that the Civil Beat says is not going to work, being this populist, like exciting, actually like I don't want to say confrontational, but like, you're going to like huli the system, right? I know I'm pronouncing that funny probably, but that's what it's all about. And you can at least try that. This is a failed guaranteed loss,
Well,
which
the
we've been calling
media
Duke all along.
loves, sensationalism. They love to, things that are going to grab attention
Right.
because they're looking for
Ratings.
eyeballs, for ratings, for, for advertiser dollars and that kind of thing. So like you were saying, BJ Penn, he wasn't a guaranteed win, but he was the one that was going to get us the farthest along on our goal of waking people
Right.
up, and he really did have a chance.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to stop him.
Well, and the second thing is, it's all the messaging, all the progression with that movement that BJ could have helped, truths that he could have brought to light, which he did, and he still continues to do, by the way, which is awesome. He's still using his platform, for all that stuff. But the second really important part is the election integrity piece of it, because no matter what, just the fact that BJ was a threat to them and that they had to finagle and bring Duke in, and definitely we have seen a lot of issues with the election system, and we have all the reasons to believe that there are issues. Number one, flag that we always talk about, all mail-in ballots started in Hawaii before
Yep.
COVID.
In 2019, they didn't even use the excuse of
which
COVID
they did
at all.
everywhere else, right? So super suspicious, because we know mail-in ballots, that process is all used. We know there's issues with voting machines, and admittedly, our commissioners, on camera have said that they know zip about computers. They're laughing about it, right?
Yeah, so they outsource these things to these companies, and they have no idea how it's run. They have to ask them what's going on.
The code is proprietary, meaning the state does not know what the code looks like. And we've covered,
They have intellectual property to that code.
Right.
Yep.
And we've covered from Clint, I don't know what his last name was, the guy Clint Curtis, who put together the first algorithm.
Back in the 90s.
Short code, in the 90s that you can just throw in there. So basically, we don't get to see the code. We don't know if that type of a code could be in there or not.
Well, and he laughed too about, he didn't think anybody'd be dumb enough to use it. He was basically just doing it to show that it could be done so that they could stop that kind of thing from happening, not knowing that they were actually going to start using it.
Yeah, he said nobody would be so stupid to use a machine with code that they can't see, right? Oh, hang on, we all do it, great.
Yeah, so speaking of election results, here's another thing we wanted to bring up on the screen here. We did a video about, Duke Iona and his, some people were calling it a confession speech because, he's basically laughing, and I shouldn't be laughing, but, he's laughing about how, the results don't matter, and he's laughing about, he kind of makes some really strange, statements. Yeah, smiling is better. I'm not sure. He probably laughed a couple times, but inside anyway. But yeah, it's really telling. How other people that lost the race, like they're noticeably disappointed. Duke was. Kind of in this for himself in a way, and mention that in no uncertain terms as well.
Yeah, it's all about like the memories made and the relationships created, and there's no losers, and everyone's kind of sitting here. And I've said this before, it's like a slap in the face to any patriot out there, to anybody who's really like been putting their blood, sweat, and tears into this fight. To go, there's no losers. Are you kidding me? Like the whole entire state lost. Because we're just set backwards now with all of this, and for him to stand there and just go, oh, this was all awesome, is like, I don't care if you're trying to cheer your team up or not. It's weird.
Yeah.
To even naturally have that reaction, it's like he knew what he was going to do, right?
Well, and also, there's been a lot of people that have been criticizing, us and other people, kind of saying that. We should have been supporting him, and he lost because we didn't support him, and that kind of a thing. Well, going back to what we were talking about before, he was the chosen loser, and he knows it. And it was his job, it's his kuleana, his responsibility to inspire people, to reach the non-voters, to reach the independents, the kinds of things that BJ Penn was doing and doing very effectively, showing up to concerts, doing all kinds of stuff and getting, raving, applause and just feedback from people. But
and touching on all the topics.
That was Duke's responsibility to do that, not ours, to do that. And we saw through that whole charade. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and that's why somebody just commented today, who even cares what Duke says or does anymore? We've been, posting more stuff about it. But, that's the whole point. Everybody needs to understand this, okay? Like, you just have to, it's okay, it is what it is. some people got suckered into that stuff. And I mean, I don't know where we're at here, and at some point we can touch on Junior right now quickly, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because Junior, even I think, was Junior Tupai, his the running mate, lieutenant governor,
Yeah,
and
lieutenant
I
governor.
understand he doesn't have a choice who he's running with, but you know, if you knew and understood that the election was stolen in the primary and that you're now just being set up to lose, we would have expected that Junior would have understood that and would have used the time and whatever spotlight and whatever you know, voice that he had during this time running as the official candidate for the Republican Party as lieutenant governor to get that message, those messages out. For example, he was involved with all that election fraud stuff, and then all of a sudden, you know, the tone got very softened. It got aligned with Duke. Mm-hmm. Duke was speaking on his behalf, saying, "Oh, I don't think Junior says or believes that the 2020 election shouldn't have been certified."
After saying, "I don't want to speak on his behalf," then he would speak on his behalf. You know, so.
And I mean, for us, even at the time, you know, Seth Keshel withdrew his endorsement of Junior. You know, and that wasn't. And Seth said, you know, and I think that's how we feel as well. It's not sort of like there's no bad blood or anything, but you know, I can't vouch for the things you're saying anymore. Like, I can't say I'm on board with that, you know. Yeah. And to us, it was a shame that we thought that Junior,
he could have used that platform, you know. He could have used that platform, you know, knowing that that they were up against.
Like we would have liked to have seen that, yeah.
Yeah, they were up against those odds that we're talking about before. They weren't really inspiring the voters that they needed to inspire, and I think that, you know, Junior deep down, you know, he kind of knew that, and he could have been really effective at continuing to wake people up and using that platform, but you know, he basically got you know, sucked in by the establishment and maybe got toned down a little bit in a way.
We haven't talked to him for a while, but it does sound like he genuinely believed that there was a winning strategy for them, you know, and that's, you know, that's understandable then, you know, but doesn't really kind of line up with what we thought he knew or understood. Right.
Yeah. So, you know, going back to just the mail-in balloting system in general, we want to bring up another video that we did here covering how, you know, the mail-in fail, you know, basically. So the Hawaii voter turnout dropped to the lowest in history, you know. So we've been hearing for the past 2 years about how mail-in ballots are supposed to increase the voter turnout. It's supposed to be super easy, all of this stuff, this whole narrative. And apparently 2020 was just a big fluke, and we had this big, you know, moonshot up of
everyone was so excited that they could vote by mail all of a sudden, right?
But now, you know, it's the lowest in history. So, you know, as usual with the mainstream media and the Democrats, you should just expect the exact opposite of whatever it is that they're saying, and then, you know, generally you're going to be right, you know, whatever the opposite is, and that's what we're seeing here, you know, lowest in history, and that's a real shame, you know, because Hawaii has already had quite a problem with voter turnout, and now it's, you know, it's getting even worse, and that has to do with, you know, and I just wanted to get one more point out, that has to do with the amount of voter service centers that we have. You know, we went from over 200 voter service centers, and a lot of this is in that video, so we encourage people to go check out that video. Over 200 polling places, you know, the schools, you know. So the reason that they had, you know, a holiday with kids out of school was so that they were using the schools as those polling locations. But, you know, we don't have that anymore. We have a total of 8, you know, they call them voter service centers now across the islands. And, you know, some islands only have 1. So people could be driving 2 or 3 hours to get to a voter service center to vote in person. And, you know, they're basically trying to say that, you know, they don't have any funds and they don't have the workers to run more service centers. They're trying to basically engage in voter suppression so that anybody that wants to vote in person on election day knows that there's going to be a long line. They're going to have, you know, they're going to be up against the odds in order to do that.
Well, they're flat out, you know, selling it as, you know, Hawaii votes by mail, right? They're not.
Right.
So you know, there's kind of that little caveat. You kind of still can vote in person. And I wonder, I mean, we've talked about this before as well, the legal precedent that was set by those 2 states on the mainland where all mail-in voting was deemed to be unconstitutional. You know, in different ways, you know, the way it is phrased, but like this flat out, everybody just votes by mail. So I wonder if that little caveat of you can still vote in person is there, but they make it very clear it's deceiving in their communications. It's, to your point, not very accessible at all because there are no voter service center stations. It definitely appears to be, you know, all deliberate.
Yep, for sure. And one thing that we also wanted to mention with the elections here in Hawaii is Samantha DeCourt. We wanted to mention that right now there's a lot of people that need to cure their ballots,
Right.
for signature issues or other issues, and Samantha is only down by just a few dozen votes, and possibly some of those ballots that need to be cured could help her bring in the win and,
Right.
and get the ninth Republican in there. So right now we have 2 Republicans in the Senate and we have 6 Republicans in the House. And we were pretty stoked to see people like Diamond Garcia and
Yes,
Brenton
awesome.
Awa in the Senate, and Diamond in the House. This is really the future of the Republican Party, and Samantha would be right there
Should be
with
great.
them.
Yeah.
And we're really stoked to see more Republicans stepping up. We're really proud of the people that stood up, and big mahalos to everybody. We know
Yes.
how
Kudos,
difficult it is,
respect.
the time and the effort and the energy involved to do something like that. So a lot of respect, and
Thank you.
big mahalos out to everybody that did run. And I think we were a little bit disappointed to see that Makua Rothman up there on the North Shore wasn't able to pull through. That was a little bit kind of weird, because we had Brenton Awa up there, and there's a lot of overlap between that City Council District 2 that Makua Rothman was running for and the Senate District, I believe it was 23, that Brenton Awa was running in. There's a lot of overlap, and it's kind of just a little bit strange that one would win and the other wouldn't win. So it doesn't really mean anything in and of itself, but definitely we were rooting for Makua big time.
While we say all of this, lowest voter turnout ever, 2020 was the outlier, Makua lost or won here or there, Duke primary versus BJ. We've already established that the elections are definitely being influenced, manipulated, and there are a lot of risks and unanswered questions around them, surrounding them. So we always have to take any of the data, with a truckload of salt.
Well, but sometimes you can't always objectively say this is the exact truth of the matter, but
Right.
you can kind of get to a
Well,
point
you
at
can
least
see
where
when
you're
there's
scratching your
patterns
head.
that are weird and don't make sense.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
things are just odd,
Yep.
and you can sort of identify that something doesn't quite add up
It's
here.
unnatural,
Statistical
like the,
anomaly.
like the curves that go like this.
Yeah, exactly. And just to touch on one more thing here with the local elections is that, we had a whole bunch of people that submitted, complaints and court filings to the Supreme Court here in Hawaii, and complaints and issues to the Elections Commission. And essentially what happens is those end up just getting thrown out. Like the Supreme Court
Yep.
says that, oh, well, you can't prove that any of these things would have changed the outcome of the election. But then you go to the Hawaii Office of Elections and you ask for the data that we are rightfully allowed to have, and they say either that they don't have it, or that we can't have it, or that
They
the
give it in a
vendor
format that you can't analyze
contract
it.
is out,
Yeah.
or they give it to you in a
Various
format
excuses.
that's like super cryptic and almost impossible to do anything with.
Process
So
even, let alone have the right
it's just
information.
why would you go through so much effort to make it so that we are not able to do that kind of analysis if there's no issue?
Well, we just heard about the Kari Lake race, and that they're calling that. And I think it was DC Drano who tweeted and said, no matter who wins, this was right before actually, no matter who wins, if Kari Lake wins, audit the vote. If, what's her face? I'm forgetting it already.
Hobbs.
Because Katie Hobbs wins, audit the vote. It's very telling
Yeah.
who wants the votes audited. Like, who wants transparency around the elections, because on the other side, they sometimes talk about election fraud. Like, it was stolen from so-and-so, but then they never come around and say, well, this is how we make sure that it's all transparent and that we know what's going on, right? That's only one side that calls for those measures.
Exactly. And
Like
you can
voter
tell
ID and
you can tell who is who and what their
paper
agenda
ballots.
is by who's on board with transparency and who's not. I mean, it's just a blatant, basic litmus test.
Right.
So, that kind of goes through some of the current issues that we were sort of thinking about that we wanted to chat, in terms of locally here in Hawaii. And, now we wanted to get into kind of some national and also some global stories as well. So, basically we're going to start here with the red wave, and the media, since when do we ever let the media tell us if a red wave happened or not, or what the truth is?
Go like with the exact opposite.
Yeah, go the exact
and you're
opposite.
much closer to the truth, if not
run the other way with whatever it is that you're thinking.
Right.
So we definitely. We think it's very notable that Trump endorsed hundreds of candidates, and out of those candidates, 219 of them won, and only 16 of them lost. So when the media is saying that there wasn't a red wave, well, what's their criteria for that? I mean,
right.
they're clearly making it up on the spot, whatever it is that's fitting their narrative and their agenda, but it's not based on what we think should really be important. And I think that that's very, very telling. We have majority control of the House. That surely is a big deal.
Stay that way, right?
Hopefully they're still trying some games. And they're saying that we are we don't have majority control of the Senate right now. We'll have to see what happens with Herschel Walker, and also with what happens with him and Warnock, and then also in Alaska. There's still a couple that are up in the air, and we'll just have to. We're staying tuned just with the rest of you. But, with regards to the House, having majority control of the House, that means Pelosi, she's out of there, So that's great. That's great to see. And also, paving the way for some investigations. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hunter Biden's laptop is a big one right there, because, that's literally Joe Biden crime family. Joe Biden's crimes committed during office.
Yep.
You can't just be the president still if that stuff comes out, and if he gets indicted there. And Fauci,
Yep, that's a big
that
deal.
Stuff will get pretty serious as well.
Rand Paul has been doing a great job, putting him on the spot. Fauci's like shaking there as he's giving testimony, and
there's
visibly
so much
flustered.
on the line for these guys with the elections, which is why this whole. Should we pull up that? Are we there yet?
Yeah, let's pull up. Let's pull up this.
Yeah.
This is a nice little meme here from Ben Garrison.
Right.
Basically saying that the crime wave is kind of trying to overtake the red wave, and obviously the little blue ripple there on the bottom.
Well, basically, the red wave. It doesn't show itself as like everything's been like tsunamied over and everybody wins. Like, I mean, what, like the enemy is just going to like lay down and take it? No, that's not what they're going to do, right? So we've got that little blue wave, which still means, of course, there are still some people who are bought into it. We know them all. Like, we know a lot of them here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And that who legitimately believe all the lies still. Then we've got, which we clearly believe, used to be the silent majority, is now the majority, not so silent majority in the country, which is the red wave. People who understand what's going on and are fighting evil, right?
Yep.
and are on
good
the side
versus
of
evil.
good.
It's not right versus
yeah,
left.
It's like the blue wave is evil, the red wave is good, and that, and there are some people who aren't, the rhinos aren't riding the red wave. Okay, so that's, I think, we try to explain this a lot of the times, right? So even though it's red and blue, we need to think more about it.
The crime wave takes many different facets, and there's many different layers to it, and it involves a lot of different things. But there would be, there'd be no wins with a crime wave, if there wasn't a red wave underneath it, So
it's what we kept saying. You need a massive turnout to overwhelm the cheating system, because
that was always the plan.
Cheating is very difficult. Like, people are always like, oh, well, they cheat. It was like, cheating is not easy, and I think of it, I'm a nerd, like, a business computer process type of a person. And like, just to like make sure, if you've got like all these different avenues you're cheating on, and you're trying to adjust numbers, and for every cheat that you pull off, you have to find some verification, you have to cover your tracks. It's not an easy thing to do. Even the algorithms, right, to some degree, like if we're on their case and we're trying to get cast vote records for them, well, they can't just like leave all those breadcrumbs that we know we're going to come looking for already. It's very difficult. So in some cases where we smashed them, and we smashed them on the last day, and we hit them hard, they couldn't do anything about it. And and that's why.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're making it so difficult too to vote in person. Because they know that that's when those Republican votes are showing up, and they want to make it as difficult as possible. And essentially, they're engaging in voter suppression by making sure that it's as difficult as possible to vote in person, which is the best way that you can, I would like to say guarantee, but it's the best chance you have that your ballot is going to be counted accurately and correctly. Because when you're doing the mail-in, especially the mail-in, but even the Dropbox as well, the chain of custody, it is so long for that, and there's so many links in that chain that are broken, and they're,
Rules
at
that we know
least
they
when you're
break.
voting in person and you're putting your ballot into that scanner, which we need to get rid of those as well. And that was a big thing about the Moment of Truth Summit that we went to, where we need to get rid of these election machines.
Yeah.
We talked about that before with Clint Curtis
Yep.
and the algorithms, that they can put into those machines. So, we've really got to do something about that. We got to go back to paper ballots,
Yep.
in person, with voter ID on election day only, and just some very minimal allowances to vote absentee, for like active duty military and for people that have accessibility issues and things like that. But I mean, we just got to roll back the clock, like 4 years here, and we just got to vote the way that we used to vote.
Well, I mean, you like to say that joke about how, it's taking so long to count now with this new process and all these machines.
Yeah, right. So, well, these machines were supposed to be, making everything more efficient, making everything quicker. Well, we're counting ballots now, slower than we were in the 1800s. So that really doesn't make any sense. And, kind of like we were talking
Doesn't
about
make
before, if they won't give us the data, well, why is that? If there's nothing wrong, then just give us the data. Well, why is it taking so long to count the votes? So for instance, Florida, has 21 million people or thereabouts. Arizona has like 7, so that's like a third. Florida was done in a matter of hours. Arizona supposedly just finished today. That's 6 days. I mean,
That's crazy.
What are you
6 days.
doing in those 6 days? Why didn't all the other states take that long? It just doesn't really make any sense. But kind of aside from that, we want to, as much as we want to expose all the crazy stuff that's happening, we also want to talk about the good things that happen, that were happening. And there were some notable wins, that we want to go over as well, too.
I was very excited about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She used to be Donald Trump's press secretary.
She was a total
She's
boss
awesome.
up there.
She's a boss lady. She's going to be governor of Arkansas.
Yep.
I mean, that could be interesting. Arkansas, that's where, Bill Clinton, way back in the days.
Yeah. That was his old stomping grounds.
His old stomping grounds.
I wonder what she might be able to cover there.
That's the thing. It's like every good person who gets in is a real threat to them. And that's why BJ Penn was such a threat to them as well, because once you can take a look under the hood, and I mean, to me, essentially, that's why I think they're also doomed, because if Trump was actually in office for 4 years, and I keep talking about how he told us months before 2020 that the election is going to be stolen. Like, I don't believe that Donald Trump knew they were going to steal the election while he was president and in charge of
just
everything,
let it happen.
And was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to let them steal it from me. No, right?
Well, he says all the time that we caught him. We caught them all. We have all the data.
Yeah.
He doesn't lie about that.
Yeah, and I think
doesn't.
I'm trying to think here, but it's a good segue kind of to talk about. Like we mentioned, there's the red wave, but then there's the crime wave on top of the red wave. The harder we showed up, which we did in the red wave, the harder they had to cheat. So then now we have work to do. We need to get the proof. Actually, so I was on a call. Andy mentioned earlier that we participated in the Moment of Truth Summit with Mike Lindell. And all the Patriots all across the country that are at the forefront of this fight in each of their states.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
and,
Audit the Vote Hawaii brought us with them.
It was like
really
24 hours of non-stop content from experts in their
days.
field, all
Yeah.
50 states. It was 12 hours a day. Just really great information. So if you guys haven't checked out any information from that, highly recommended.
Yeah.
A lot of like IT experts, cyber experts. An update on each and every state. Karine Solomon, who was representing Hawaii and invited us to come out there. She did a great job giving a Hawaii update, so definitely worth checking that out as well. Seth Keshel was there. We've met him, and he's been here.
And things as well that
he did a great job. Really, really good stuff. But one thing that's been continuing from that conference is actually that was sort of a collaboration with Cause of America.
Right.
And Cause of America has been doing these ongoing conference calls, kind of updates from various different people across the nation, each and every week. And, what they were talking about this past week was focusing on rule breaking, because they won't give us the data they won't give us those cast vote records and various other things that we're allowed to have.
And they're throwing out the court cases by corrupted judges. So it's like suing at this point is,
So we can, focus on the things that are objective and available to us, and focusing on how they're breaking the rules, breaking the law,
Right.
Not conducting the post-audit election or post-election audits the way that they're supposed to.
That was here specifically.
They're supposed to randomly select 10% of the precincts.
I think we had an example
they're not
here.
even doing that.
Oh yeah, you've got it right there already from Jenny Boyette.
Yep.
You've got it up already. Yeah, great.
Yep.
That was an example
we got it
of
up.
Basically a rule that was broken because they shouldn't really have been publishing the any of the election data until the last person in line, has cast their vote. So, we know that certainly happened. I think Jenny was trying to find out or, reach out to us if you know that you were still in line. I can't remember the times that she said. It was like 7:10 and 8:23. Check out our post about it. If you were in line at those times still trying to vote, or if you were late in line, basically after 7 o'clock, get in touch because they were already releasing, the first printouts at that time.
Yep. And so along those lines, we also wanted to give you guys some tips on where to submit data, irregularities, rule breaking, law breaking, all that kind of thing. Kind of going along the same lines as we were before with that Moment of Truth Summit. Mike Lindell has been doing such a great job organizing people across the country, and he's got a whole interface here with Whistleblower Report where you can go to crime.frankspeech.com and submit all of your evidence. They've got a whole bunch of lawyers and whatnot and attorneys that are helping them out with all this kind of thing, and just getting everybody together across the nation to make things happen. And also locally, we mentioned this before, we've got Audit the Vote Hawaii. If you don't follow Corinne Solomon and Audit the Vote Hawaii, you definitely got to do that. Instagram, Facebook, Telegram. There's a lot of people in the Telegram chat. Every day. Strategizing and organizing and doing all kinds of things. So if you're not on Telegram, definitely check that out for sure. And she's always posting up great information on her Instagram as well, and as well as Facebook. So this is her.
Well,
and so she's got a few different articles here that you can see, on the screen, and definitely would recommend checking that out. That's a really good resource. auditthevotehawaii.substack.com. So we're definitely all about seeing some accountability, and the more information that we have, the better. And we just got to keep that pressure on and just keep trucking along, keep pushing forward. So kind of getting from that into something that's also been in the news lately is the whole Trump versus DeSantis thing. Where they're basically hyping up this whole thing to divide the Republican Party with Trump versus DeSantis. And we thought it was really interesting that Trump put out he retruthed a truth from somebody else.
Yeah, so basically the story is that
Yeah.
Trump has kind of been making comments, calling DeSantis names and things like that, and it's appearing that there's kind of a feud and rumors that DeSantis is going to run against Trump in 2024, basically.
Yeah,
right?
we're highly in doubt of that, but we definitely don't deny that there's probably people that are trying to get him to do that. There's people that want to divide the Republican Party, and there probably are people that are trying, but Ron, he seems like a solid guy.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a weird feeling about it when it first came out, and just knowing, Trump is very strategic with everything he does, how he acts, how he communicates. Nothing is an accident. And so, he'll say, and you can't take him at face value because of that, because he has to be strategic. And when he's talking to the fake news, when he's talking to the cameras, how is that interpreted? How is that going to get passed on? I mean, we were talking about even this, his announcement that he's going to be making tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Right. And I know we were going to talk about that a little bit later.
We'll touch on that later.
Yeah.
But, what we wanted to get into here was, basically kind of, we touched on this already. So Trump retruthed this from Ultra MAGA Derpsh, and it says Trump masterfully started this fake fight with DeSantis to reveal the deep state rhino scum and their puppets. Brilliant move. Now we see who is truly for the people and who is for the DC swamp. Trump 2024, MAGA, and some American flags there. So we have been following Trump, and we've been following things really closely over the last few years, and I think everybody really needs to understand that you can't, and I think you said this already, you can't take everything at face value. And Trump is playing an optics game a lot of the times too, and this whole beef that he supposedly has with Sessions and Bill Barr, that's a little bit questionable as well too, and he does these kinds of things to see who's really on his side and who's not on his side. And he also posted recently about who's going to step into the Trump quicksand.
Well, there's this really old video which we keep talking about. We should add to our content here and pull it up in case you guys haven't seen it. But there's an old clip of a younger Trump, much younger Trump, where he talks about that sometimes he likes to lose everything just so he can see who's truly with him. And who isn't, and that sort of happened to him several times in his life, and that that really uncovered a lot, or told him a lot, or showed him a lot.
Because everybody, the snakes come out of the grass. When it appears like you've lost everything, they're going to come after you. That as he's been saying, the jackals, so the jackals will come out, and the rhinos and that kind of thing. You see people's true colors.
So this is all basically the same story, right? It's like Trump is dead. The red wave didn't happen. DeSantis is now going to be the new head or the new movement of the party.
And you've got what some people call conservative ink. It's not just the media. It's all these supposed conservative talking heads that are jumping on board with basically dump Trump.
I was very disappointed. Supposedly Candace Owens.
Time to move on from Trump. Candace Owens. That was a real disappointment there. So we're not really sure what really happened with that.
Well, I haven't just heard what she said, but this has been a big deal.
Definitely concerning. Yeah, for sure. But they're trying to get people to hop off the Trump train, and they're not going to be successful. They're going to fail at that, like they fail at everything else. But they're trying hard, because they know that it's him or them, and it's him versus them, and really ultimately they're out there for us. Trump's just in the way. So let's definitely not listen to the fake news on that, and let's just wait and see what happens. Yeah, exactly. So we touched on this as well earlier, was Trump's announcement that's happening tomorrow. Another thing where I think the saying manage your expectations would really come in handy here, where at the rally before the general election, they were hyping this whole thing up of Trump making this announcement at the rally, and everybody thought he was announcing his run for president.
He might.
And but that was at the rally, and now he sort of was like kind of baiting people into thinking that he's going to announce his run for president tomorrow at Mar-a-Lago, and that, like you said, that may happen. But we should really manage our expectations and just understand all of these things that we've been talking about, where Trump is playing optics. He's constantly baiting the media, baiting the rhinos, baiting the Democrats to do what he wants them to do, to expose themselves or to accomplish some kind of other agenda. So, it's very possible that he might make that announcement, but let's not go into it with that expectation.
Well, I'm excited about tomorrow.
It's going to be exciting.
Fun to watch.
Every time Trump gets on camera and he's got the media there, it's going to be.
It's a good time.
It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a good time for sure. So I think let's move into a little bit of international news now.
Yeah, basically a big thing is still on the topic of elections is the Brazil election. So I kind of want to be like, if you didn't know about this, because there's a major media blackout about it, but there was the presidential election a few weeks ago now in Brazil, with the populist candidate up for re-election, Bolsonaro, and Lula, who was running against him, a China-owned puppet, a criminal China-owned puppet, which the people knew, like legitimate criminal who had to be released from jail and then was allowed to run for president.
Yeah, I mean,
supposedly
unbelievable.
supposedly won against Bolsonaro. So yeah, thanks for pulling that up here. I mean, you can see
Yeah.
the crowds that Bolsonaro attracted, and of course you're seeing the Brazil election being quite similar, or having a lot of similarities to what we saw in 2020. Where Brazil relies entirely on voting machines for their elections, the same technology.
Sounds pretty similar to what we've got going on here, and Dominion is a Venezuelan, company. They're from there in South America as well, and there's a lot of communist countries over there in South America, and I'm sure they would love another domino to fall with Brazil. So we've been hearing rumblings about the military stepping in and doing some things with the election there. And we've got to keep our eyes out for that, and we've had some good people kind of covering that as well. We've had Jimmy Levy. He's been covering and actually doing some songs about Brazil and covering what's been going on over there, the mass protests, and there I even saw some footage of people, Brazilians in New York, even protesting and holding up their signs and whatnot the other day. So this is not a fight that's specific to America, and the USA.
Yeah, exactly.
This is also happening across the world.
Well, and he does a really good job giving those people right now a voice that are protesting. Like I said, there's a complete media blackout. I don't know if you would have heard it anywhere in like the supposed, mainstream real news or whatever. And, there are people who are getting all their accounts, they're being silenced, like with the COVID. And whenever you were speaking any truth about, the vaccines or the medications, they're losing their accounts, they're being censored. And so, Jimmy Levy's doing a really good job, giving them a voice and giving them a platform. I would definitely check him out. We follow him on Instagram, I guess. I'm sure he has other channels as well, but definitely would recommend that if you want to be on top of what's going on in Brazil. And hopefully this could set a precedent, right? Again, like Andy said, the fight is global. The cabal is everywhere. The evil controllers of the world who have enslaved humanity don't just do that here. They do that everywhere, right? So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Wizard of Oz behind the scenes, and there's more than one for sure, and they're probably battling between each other too for power as well.
Well, and I think why there's such this excitement, you were kind of alluding to this, but one of our friends, Brazilian, and she's very awake to all the stuff that's going on, was basically it kind of just didn't occur to me in that sense, but she basically said, it's the last non-communist country in South America, like we know what's coming at us.
They're fighting for a lot over there. They're that in a similar way to America. They're that last kind of shining light in that region. I think a lot of people see America as the last kind of shining light, in the world as well. And our Constitution has a lot to do with that.
Just from
that's a very
freedom
unique,
and
that's a very unique way we have set up our government here, where it's a government of the people. And the government is there to serve the people, and that's a unique way that we have it set up here.
So I'm going to do a quick time check. We probably need to speed it up to get through the rest of our stuff here, but we've got a lot more to go through.
So jumping back to the U.S., we've got some election integrity stuff happening. As we've been talking about before. So Eugene Yu, that was a big thing that happened with the company Connect and them storing data about the poll workers in China on Chinese servers. And there was a lot of suspicious things going on there. There was
so Eugene Yu is the president of this company, I can never pronounce Connect, that produces makes election software basically, and that's being used by a lot of municipalities and a lot of states. So it's really concerning, and he was arrested because of the information that Greg Phillips and Catherine Engelbrecht put out on their True the Vote and at the Pit, which was another summit similar to the Moment of Truth summit. It happened shortly before that, and it was a big gathering of people with all their information, and they did a great job. And another person that was doing a really great job was Conacoa the Great. If you haven't heard of him, definitely check him out on Telegram and Truth Social.
He's been a little bit quiet recently, so he may be kind of laying low because of some lawfare
Yeah, that's your theory, right?
and things going on. Hopefully he's okay. But he did a
I mean,
really fantastic
those
job,
tech companies,
researching everything into that
yeah,
company.
I mean, those election tech companies were the ones that were, suing for defamation and all that kind of stuff, like since 2020. So it's always a risk to go up against these guys. And so Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips learned that real quick too, when they were actually arrested, for not wanting to disclose who provided them the information.
Right. Yeah, they didn't want to disclose that, and there's some speculation that it could have been a confidential human source, and they're not at liberty to disclose that, and they were actually thrown in jail for not disclosing that information that they're not even at liberty to disclose at all in the first place.
Unbelievable.
They've been released now, but a real darn shame for the sham of the justice system we have here in America right now, under the Biden administration, or the Biden administration, as a lot of people like to say. So
yeah, I mean, it's such a crazy thing because, this was another good example as well of like how the fake news plays into this whole election thing, because they were the ones that, called their story, these conspiracy theorists, and within I think you said it was less than 24 hours, the next day they had to print that Eugene Yu actually was arrested, in like the sketchiest of circumstances. Like he's supposedly he was on his way to the airport, supposedly going on a business trip, didn't have a phone with him.
Yeah, didn't have his phone.
So sus, right?
Yeah.
And they tried to spin the whole thing in the fake news where they said that, none of the data was election data, it was only election poll workers' information. And it's like, well, you can do a whole ton of stuff with that. I think there was some information out there about them having super user access or system admin access. So if you have their passwords, and boom, you're in the system. If you have anything related to the system, there's ways to get in.
It's a lot of information.
Let alone, could you bribe these poll workers? Are you able to observe what they're doing?
Yep.
All that kind of stuff, right? So the media first denied it, then downplayed it, and we're going to have to see how this all plays out. But the big lie is what they're telling you.
Well, and we know, on many different fronts, blackmail and using, information against people is a big thing that happens quite often. So, you mentioned that's definitely something that could be being used with that kind of data being out there.
Right.
So that's kind of the, some of the global and other United States kind of topics that we wanted to cover. We want to get into something a little bit different now as well, that's becoming pretty pervasive throughout the mainstream media and society these days, and we just wanted to touch on that because it's really why are they pushing this so hard?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a little bit like Andy and I always joke about how we have a lot of people who follow us that we call COVID woke, that have realized through the pandemic and all the insanity that took place there. Plandemic, yeah, exactly. That they're realizing kind of what is going on in the world, right? And that there's like all kinds of stuff, a depopulation agenda, right? An agenda to poison, like that there's actually like a global network, how the news is all, tied together, because we saw all that stuff during the pandemic. But then there's also a whole lot of other stuff that people that we call COVID woke don't know about what's going on in the world and politics and where we're at in this fight, the elections
and all that kind of stuff. I think the scamdemic, the plandemic, whatever we want to call it, COVID, convid, whatever, it woke a lot of people up, and it was a good thing, but there's so many different angles that we're being attacked at, and this is one of them. This is one of these strange things that's
it's this pro transgender propaganda film that was put out, targeting children, and it was sponsored by a pharmaceutical company that creates feminizing drugs, so I think you were saying this the other day. It's your Hegelian dialectic.
Problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, then they incite the reaction, and then they have a solution just ready to go to spoon feed right to you. And that's they do that all the time.
Right. We were just using as an example too that this Vanderbilt clinic had a presentation, and those they were caught on video, and this went viral about discussing how much money they make off of these transgender patients. And here trying to plant these thoughts into children's minds who are very easily influenced. I think this video that they put out there is all done in the voice of other children, telling them, telling them sort of, their narrative or their propagandized messages. And we need to keep an eye on this, and I mean that's the other good thing. I mean, we're bashing the COVID awakening, but mama bears are out there and they're paying attention, and they're definitely paying attention.
Well, and one
to
thing I wanted to mention too that stands out to me is the word pharmaceutical here.
Yep.
We're talking about pharmaceutical companies where I think a lot of people can connect with that, with the whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
That's been happening, and not just what's happening with these transformations that are you can't go back. Once
Right.
you do that, there's no going
and
back.
There's a lot of videos out there of people who have have gone through procedures and things like that, and they regret it and they can't reverse them. And it's just. It's another one of those things is what they love to do to create all these divisions and to push their agenda and move their agenda forward. And what exactly their agenda is, is a good question. Depopulation, confusion, trying to kind of make us all kind of like just a unique nothing and to turn us into a number, like everything doesn't matter anymore. Your gender doesn't matter anymore. That's it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into this,
well,
right?
They're trying to break up the nuclear family
Right.
and all that kind of thing
Right.
too. There's
Exactly.
so many different
But
agendas.
what I was trying to say is that they, will twist it into like, when you're talking about it, you're like transphobe or you're a bigot or you're a racist.
It's the new conspiracy theorist. It's just another ad hominem attack where they don't actually engage in discussion and debate on a topic. They just try and hurl accusations and names at you, to shut you up.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, if you talk to me and my friend is trying to get a boob job, I will tell them, my goodness, don't do that. It's really bad. Like putting those silicone parts into, I wouldn't recommend it, and taking hormone blockers, no. I mean, we question and, people should be thinking about the pill, whether they should be taking the pill, whether they should be taking any of these pharmaceutical drugs
because
all the time.
it's all hormones,
Yep.
hormone therapy and that kind of a thing. And, what goes along with this transgender agenda is actually, the transgenders sort of taking over women's sports, taking over beauty pageants, all of that kind of stuff. And it's really terrible, how women are really being affected by this. And you found this article the other day and I'll let you, kind of touch on that. Yeah, I mean,
I just laughed about that title, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was...
An overweight bloke just won a Miss America beauty pageant. I mean, it's comical, right? Like, if you just, it's like... It's okay to be supportive of anybody who has needs and needs to be supportive, but it's like, don't turn all of society into like I don't want to say a clown show, but a beauty pageant. I mean, a show, a parade. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, right, exactly. So. It's just something that's just becoming more and more pervasive all the time, and we just felt the need to just touch on it.
Well, we're going to touch
here.
those stories, the crazy stories that pop up, like that lady and some people say she's fake, right? But that teacher in Canada who runs around with like these ginormous boobs and like just pretends it's normal. It's not normal.
It's like a caricature, and it's. Sometimes you're not sure what's true and what's a parody, and the world is like a circus sometimes. It seems, So kind of getting onto another topic, just sort of current news and things that are happening. We definitely felt the need to touch on the whole Twitter and Elon Musk thing, and we definitely have had some questions about Elon Musk and his. His agenda or motivations and that kind of thing in the past, and we still do, but we've seen a lot of good things from him recently, and we're kind of reserving judgment. We'll see what happens, kind of like what we talked about with Trump's announcement. We'll see what happens.
I mean, they keep us on your toes, but the bottom line is, and I always joke about this, like I have spent years arguing with my brother-in-law who loves Elon Musk, who loves Tesla, everything, and I've always been rattling down all these issues with him, and even now I'm seeing it. I wanted to actually double check on it. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. But Terrence Williams, I think, was saying that one of his videos got deleted for talking about the election on Twitter. And it's like,
wow.
How much control? How much of that is like built into the algorithms, and you need to uncover, and you need to manage, and you can't just knee jerk on all these decisions and be a freaking dictator either, right? So it's kind of like, let's sit back,
Yeah.
let's see what's going to happen. He's doing a lot of good stuff. He's basically exposing the bots is a big deal. And the whole thing started in the very beginning when Twitter, when he announced that he was going to buy the company for like a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
Excuse
well,
me.
and they've been trying to stop him the whole time, and they're still trying to strategize ways to keep it from happening. Because that was their
Right.
that was their bullhorn with Twitter, and he took that away. And it clearly wasn't working for the people and abiding by the First Amendment the way it was. There's no guarantee that it
Right.
will with Elon Musk at the helm either. Having one single person owning it, making all the decisions. That could be good, that could be bad. We'll
Right.
have to wait and see. But it sure as heck is entertaining. He's become like the biggest, internet troll in the world, it seems, lately, and
Yeah,
just,
like I said, he started
owning
out-
people on a daily
Yeah,
basis.
it's funny. I mean, he started out saying he was going to buy the company, for all this money, which they couldn't resist. So then they move forward with a deal, and then he says, okay, the deal's going to go ahead, but only if you tell me how many bots there are. And all of a sudden, everyone's like freaking out, right? So that
Right.
exposure is just priceless. And it's like,
Yep.
there's no way you can tell me, oh, it's like two sides of the same coin. There's something going on. There's definitely an exposure that is not going to be good for whoever's behind it, right?
Well, and you made me think of something too, where sometimes it's really important to see who is freaking out.
Right.
That can
Yes.
tell you
said that
sometimes a lot about any particular topic or a person or that kind of thing. Whatever it is that's current. Look at who's freaking out.
Yeah.
Look at who's panicking, and then you can sort of get a feeling of whether things are going in a good direction or not. And right now Elon's got kind of all the right people freaking out. So that's a good thing. We'll see where it goes. So that's sort of that's kind of the current topics, locally,
Yeah.
nationally, internationally that we wanted to go over today on our first report here. What we also want to do is we want to go over a little bit of a recap of some of the things that we've done recently here with Surfing for Truth and on our Instagram and other social media accounts. And I want to bring this video up here where if you would have asked us, what we thought of Tulsi Gabbard, similar to what we said with Elon Musk, a month ago or any time before that, we'd have kind of been like, I don't know. She said some good things, she said some bad things, can't really trust her, that kind of a thing. But, she's officially leaving the Democrat Party. All the right people are freaking out once again. And, she's been, campaigning with some great people, Carrie Lake. She started a new show, the Tulsi Gabbard Show. She's been doing some great things, so we're going to have to wait and see. But we were very fortunate to be able to interview her after she voted on Election Day. Yeah, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You got any more thoughts on that?
No, I'm trying to keep us on time here so we don't use too much of everyone's time. But
okay, well,
Yeah.
let's touch on a couple of other
Yeah, and then we
topics
can-
here that we just wanted to give a quick recap of
yeah.
some things that
I mean,
we've
a
been
lot
doing.
of these videos we already showed.
Point
as
out
well.
anything that looks good to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the slings and arrows one maybe with Trump is a neat one. Go check it
Yeah.
out. But we have this quote here of Trump saying, "I take all these slings and arrows gladly for you." I think it's a very appropriate time again where they're trying to attack him. They're trying to say that the MAGA movement is dead. That nobody cares, and like this is all the stuff that he's been enduring. And this is how hard, like Andy was saying earlier, they're trying to get to us and he's just in the way. This is how hard they've tried to get rid of him. You've had the Russia collusion, impeachment number 1. You've got Ukraine call, which was impeachment hoax number 2, as they say. And we're going to talk about all of these in future
And now you got
episodes.
the Mar-a-Lago thing.
Mar-a-Lago
it's just
raid, January 6th
all the
false
time,
flag. The whole COVID thing is part of this as well,
I mean,
with the
we're just
election.
so grateful that he would, give up his cushy, luxurious life of a billionaire, a successful billionaire, to do this for us, for we the people. It's truly amazing. One thing that I think we also should touch on here is this post right here that got censored. It's actually been a while since Instagram has censored a post and completely covered it up.
Yeah. It's only the second one so far that we have.
Yeah.
The other one was the Arizona stolen election.
So you speak too much truth about COVID and the pandemic, and they don't like that. So, this was just some of those things that we were pointing out, things that just don't make any sense about COVID. And apparently it was too good for for Instagram.
And we'll drop the
to let them
link
stay.
and links to kind of everything that we've shared today in the
links in the description
comments
for everything that we're going over today.
So check it out.
Yep.
Whenever they tell you try to have you not look, that's when you should look. What's BJ's thing? If they tell you can, you must.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then, one thing that we've been doing a lot of is, covering, Josh Green and all the crazy things that he's been saying. We've got a video here where he's saying that Trump stole the election from Hillary Clinton. So what? I guess he's an election denier now. Are they gonna, censor him and call him names and all this kind of stuff? Well, of course not, because if the Democrats lose, then it's all good. They're allowed to say it. But if the Republicans lose, then they just say all the things under the sun.
Well, everybody points fingers at everybody else, right?
And then also, here in this video, I went through the past 2 years of the things that Josh Green has said, just the craziest stuff, and if you want a good recap of all the kinds of things that he has said, that'd be a good one to check out. So that's kind of just a good
Speaking
recap
of things to check out. Yeah, we could move on to just this is our content, and we'll talk more about all of these in future.
A couple other we wanted to go over some recommendations before we close out the show here. This is something that we just checked out the other day. This is Ty and Charlene Bollinger. They've been around for years doing great documentaries. They have such amazing people that go on there, experts in their field, giving information on various different topics. They started with the truth about cancer, then they had the truth about vaccines, and now this episode, or rather documentary series is called Propaganda Exposed. It's 9 separate parts. They're very in depth, and they're free. They do each of those 9 episodes for a day each. And then, and then after that, they put it up for sale. But it's still ongoing now, so up until the 17th. So if you want to check out those last few episodes, it will be a good time to go do that.
Yeah, like Andy said, you can watch them for free. You just have to sign up with your email address right now for each day that they release one. I think they're on the 6th today. And then you could purchase them, and it's really good work. Really good speakers that they have that are part of the series that we're familiar with as well. And they just do a really good job of detailed research, going all the way back to the history, showing you how everything ties together. So we're looking forward to watching the rest of it, and we'll probably be talking about it more when we, the various episodes and things that we learn there as well. So
yeah, definitely. And then we couldn't do our first episode without a shout out for X22 Report, a total juggernaut in the space of alternative information and citizen journalism. He's been doing this for going on 10 plus years. He's on episode 2,900 and something now, and he does a show every day except for Saturdays. They're usually about plus or minus 45 minutes a piece, and he just does such an amazing job of aggregating all of the information on a daily basis. Everybody has a limited amount of time to be able to consume information and, on a daily basis. And he's just our go-to every single day. We've been watching him for like 4 years now. Just a great way to sort of get all the information that you need on a daily basis that is, going over all of the crazy things that are happening, but also the good things that are happening. And we really enjoy hearing about all the good things that are happening, because those are the things that the mainstream media doesn't cover. They cover all the bad things, they have no problem doing that, but they don't cover the good stuff. And so X22, Dave, he does such a great job of balancing, the good with the bad. And I want you to, kind of elaborate that, if you've got any thoughts.
I think you covered it.
About mentioning some of these spotlight interviews.
We watched a couple of really good interviews that he did recently. So he also does interviews, which he calls spotlight interviews, in addition to his daily update and newscast. Basically, instead of watching the news, what you used to do, watch the news, you watch his episodes. He does like a financial report and a political and geopolitical one. We mostly skip the financial one. You watch it sometimes, but the political and geopolitical one is really what you don't want to miss. And then the spotlight interviews. So a couple heavy hitters that we just watched recently, we'd recommend you check out is Kash Patel, and who was a big part of Trump's team in his administration.
He was.
And then Seth Keshel, who's if you followed us, you're familiar with him as well.
He's been fighting for election integrity and just doing some incredible data analysis and statistical analysis of of all 50 states. He's visited here in Hawaii twice to show his data. We saw him and he presented at the Moment of Truth Summit. He's been, doing a great job, and he had a really good update, the day before the election that's up here on the screen. So, definitely we highly recommend checking out X22 Report if you're looking for a daily report that's going to give you, all the kinds of information that you might need for a daily update. So, that's pretty much what we had in mind here for our first episode of the Surfing for Truth Report. And we hope to be doing another one of these very soon. We're going to be we've got a goal to do it weekly, and we haven't settled on a specific day, but we're gonna as our schedule allows, we're gonna do these reports, and what are the things you
it's great. Thanks for tuning in. We're really hoping that we can get much more information out to you guys this way, and I do think that we're going to try. This is our first run here, and trying to cram in so much stuff that we've been feeling all FOMO'd about that we haven't been able to cover properly. But if we catch up sort of like on a weekly basis, hopefully we can keep it closer to 45 minutes. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for all the support we've been getting from everybody. Over the years, I want to say at this point. Appreciate it.
Yep, we're really thankful for all the people that support us and give us feedback, and please give us feedback about what you think about the show as well too. And
what's good, what sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
We can take it.
So thanks a lot for joining us, and we look forward to sharing some more information with you guys soon. Aloha.
See you later.